All right, so you wanted to dive into this whole DOGE thing, this Department of Government Efficiency, huh? It's definitely got people talking.
It has. It's certainly an interesting development,
Huh?
especially considering where we're getting some of this info from. YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Not exactly where you'd expect to be getting intel on a new government department.
Right, but that's where we are. And these videos, well, they're pretty revealing. We've got some big names attached to this. Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah, Musk. Gotta love him.
And then, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, he's an interesting choice.
Not to mention Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary.
Hegseth, wow. That's that's definitely unexpected.
It is. And it raises some questions. I mean, can you really overhaul something as massive as the federal government with, well, with what they're calling this?
A high-energy approach.
Right, a high-energy approach.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying to bring this Silicon Valley move fast and break things mentality to Washington.
But government's not exactly known for its speed, right?
No, not at all. It's more like move slow and break nothing. Or maybe move slow and break everything.
Huh. Maybe. But seriously, is this even feasible? I mean, what are they actually trying to accomplish with DOGE?
Well, from what we're seeing, they're aiming pretty high. Dismantle bureaucracy, slash regulations, cut spending, restructure entire agencies.
Whoa, 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 hold on. That sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is. It's almost like they're trying to build a new government from scratch.
And by when?
By July 4th, 2026.
2026? That's like, what? Less than 3 years?
Yep. Musk actually compared it to the Manhattan Project.
Wow. Okay. So big goals, tight timeline. Makes you wonder if it's more about symbolism than substance.
Possibly, but then you have to look at who they've tapped to lead this whole thing.
Yeah, Musk and Ramaswamy. It's quite the pairing.
It is. You've got Musk, the tech visionary, the disruptor, and then you've got Ramaswamy. He's more of a
Wild card.
maybe. I mean, he's coming from the biotech world. Had a presidential run recently too. Remember?
Oh, right. So DOGE is like his.
His comeback tour.
Maybe? Or maybe it's a stepping stone to something bigger? Governor of Ohio, maybe?
Could be. He's certainly got political ambitions.
So, potentially a short-timer leading a massive government overhaul. Alongside Musk, who, let's face it, has about a million other things going on.
Yeah. Not exactly a recipe for stability, is it?
Definitely raises some questions about their long-term commitment.
It does. And then there's the whole question of how this high-energy cabinet is going to mesh with the existing bureaucracy, the Washington swamp, as they like to call it.
Yeah, the swamp.
You think those career bureaucrats are just going to roll over and let these outsiders come in and shake things up?
I doubt it. They're more likely to dig in their heels and resist every step of the way.
Which could create a lot of friction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It could be total chaos. Or, maybe that's what Trump wants. Maybe he thrives on that kind of chaos.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But either way, it's going to be interesting to watch.
No doubt about it. All right, so we've got DOGE. We've got this potentially volatile mix of personalities in the cabinet. But there's one more appointment we need to talk about. Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary.
Ah, yes. Noem. That's a big one. And it's where things get particularly interesting. I mean, she's a lot like Trump in many ways.
She is staunch conservative, governor of South Dakota.
And a very vocal supporter of Trump's agenda.
She's been a regular fixture at his rallies, his events.
Definitely not a surprise pick.
Nope. But what does this mean for Homeland Security? What kind of changes can we expect to see?
Well, I think it's safe to say that her appointment signals a pretty significant shift in direction for the department, a shift that's likely to align very closely with Trump's own views on immigration, border security, you name it.
So potentially a lot of changes coming down the pipeline, and not just in terms of policy, but in terms of the overall culture of the department.
Right. I think we can expect to see a much more, let's say, assertive approach to Homeland Security under Noem's leadership.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
We've got DOGE, we've got this high-energy cabinet with some potentially explosive personalities, and we've got a Homeland Security Secretary who's likely to bring a very specific, very Trumpian perspective to the job.
It's a lot to take in. And it's only the beginning.
Exactly. We're just scratching the surface here.
And, thinking about all these personalities, it's not just going to be them versus the swamp, right? I mean, you got to wonder how they're going to get along with each other.
Oh, yeah, good point. It's like you got all these big egos, all these strong personalities. How do they even function as a team?
Right. Like Musk, he's all about speed disruption.
Yeah.
Breaking things to make them better. But then you've got Ramaswamy, who's maybe more, I don't know, methodical. playing the long game.
And don't forget, Hegseth, ex-military Fox News guy, laser-focused on China. Could be a real clash of styles there.
Definitely. And the sources actually pick up on this.
Yeah.
There's this one video. It talks about how Musk's kind of bulldozer approach might not work so well with Ramaswamy's more...
Scalpel approach. Yeah.
Exactly. Like trying to mix oil and water, you know?
It's like a recipe for disaster. Or at least a whole lot of drama.
Oh, yeah. Guaranteed drama. And then there's the wild card in all of this.
Exactly.
Exactly. How much patience is he going to have with this crew? Is he going to let them do their thing, or is he going to be, you know...
Micromanaging.
Yeah, breathing down their necks.
Yeah.
Maybe even stirring the pot a little. You know how he is.
Trump loves chaos. But even beyond Trump, it's interesting how these cabinet positions are almost becoming like short-term gigs now.
That's true. It used to be that people would stay in these roles for years, build up expertise, relationships. But now, it's like everyone's just passing through.
Yeah.
On their way to something bigger.
Yeah, like a revolving door. And you have to wonder, does that even work? How can you address these big, complex issues if you're constantly switching out the people in charge?
Exactly. It's like you're always starting from scratch.
Yeah.
You lose that institutional knowledge, that continuity.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for fireworks within the cabinet. But let's zoom in on Noam for a second. Homeland Security. That's a huge responsibility.
It is. And given her background, her views, it's safe to say that immigration is going to be a major focus.
Right. She's been very outspoken about her stance on that. And with her in charge of Homeland Security, well, we could see some pretty big changes.
Definitely border security, enforcement of immigration laws, even how we deal with refugees. It's all going to be on the table.
And, you know, she's aligned with Trump on these issues. So it's not just about making the department more efficient. It's about shifting the direction, the priorities.
Exactly. It's about aligning Homeland Security with a very specific worldview.
So again, it's not just about nuts and bolts efficiency. It's about ideology, too. And that raises some interesting questions.
For sure. Like, what does efficiency even mean in this context? Is it just about doing things faster and cheaper? Or is it about achieving certain outcomes, even if those outcomes are, you know, controversial?
Yeah. So it's almost like we're witnessing a kind of paradigm shift in government, a fundamental rethinking of what it should do, how it should operate.
Yeah, it's not just rearranging a furniture. It's like they're building a whole new house with a whole new set of blueprints.
And the implications of that are huge. It affects everything. How the government functions, how it interacts with citizens, even the values that underpin American society.
Right. It's not just about policy. It's about culture. It's about who we are as a nation.
Whoa. Okay. Big picture stuff. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. It's still early days for this administration. A lot can change between now and 2026.
Definitely. This whole thing is like a high wire act.
Yeah.
And we're all just watching to see if they can pull it off or if they're going to, you know.
Crash and burn.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for friction within the cabinet, Noam's impact on Homeland Security, the bigger picture implications of all of this. But I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the rise of these short-term appointments.
Right. And it makes you wonder, can you really achieve lasting change if you're only in the game for a short time?
Like with DOGE Musk Ramaswamy? They're both super busy guys. They've got a lot on their plates. Can they really devote the time and energy needed to make this work?
It's a legitimate question, and it speaks to a larger trend in politics, this kind of short-term thinking, where it's all about immediate results, instant gratification.
But government doesn't really work that way, does it? It's a slow-moving machine. It takes time to build consensus, to implement change, to see results.
Exactly. It's like trying to turn an aircraft carrier on a dime. It's not going to happen.
So you need people who are committed for the long haul, people who are willing to put in the time and the effort to make a real difference.
Right. It's not about scoring quick wins. It's about building something that lasts, something that benefits future generations.
And that's what we need to be watching for. Not just the headlines, not just the flashy announcements, but the actual tangible results.
Exactly. We need to see how these changes are impacting people's lives. Are they making government more efficient, more responsive? Are they improving things for everyday Americans?
That's the bottom line. It's not about ideology. It's not about politics. It's about making a positive difference in the world.
And that's what we should be holding our leaders accountable for. Results, not rhetoric.
Okay, so as we move forward, let's keep our eyes on the prize.
Right.
Real, measurable progress. Let's see if this unconventional cabinet can actually deliver on its promises.
And let's not forget the bigger picture. All of this is happening within a larger context, a global shift in how we think about government. its role in society, its relationship to its citizens.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, that's for sure. And it's a time that demands our attention, our critical thinking, our active engagement.
Absolutely. We can't afford to be passive observers. We need to be informed. We need to be engaged. We need to hold our leaders accountable.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more piece of this puzzle that we need to explore: the international implications. How are these changes, this new cabinet, this whole DOGE thing, how is it all being perceived by other countries?
That's a great question. And it's one that we'll be diving into in our next segment.
You know, it's amazing how much this whole thing comes down to, like the way they're talking about it, you know? The language they're using, it's all very deliberate.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely strategic. Like they're creating a brand, a narrative that's easy to digest, even if you're not like deep into politics.
Exactly. Like with DOGE, they didn't call it the Department of whatever government reform or something boring. It's DOGE. It's catchy. It's playful. It's like they're speaking the language of the internet.
Right. It's like they're bypassing the traditional media channels and going straight to the people.
Yeah.
Using memes and slogans and, sound bites.
And it's working. People are paying attention. They're talking about it, even if they don't fully understand the policy details.
That's the thing, though. Does it even matter if they understand the details? I mean, are we entering an era where politics is more about feeling than thinking?
That's kind of scary, right? Like, what if we're all just making decisions based on gut reactions and emotional appeals?
Exactly. We could end up with policies that sound good on the surface but actually have really negative consequences.
So what do we do? How do we avoid falling into that trap?
I think it comes down to being critical thinkers. Don't just take everything at face value. Question things. Dig deeper. Do your own research.
Don't just follow the hype. Think for yourself.
Exactly. And be wary of anyone who tries to oversimplify complex issues or appeal to your emotions without backing it up with facts.
So basically, don't believe the hype. Do your own homework.
Pretty much.
It's a lot to keep in mind, especially with everything going on. But it's important stuff. If we want to make informed decisions about our future, we got to stay engaged. We got to stay informed.
Absolutely. And we got to be willing to challenge those in power. Hold them accountable for their actions. Make sure they're actually serving the people.
All right, so to wrap up this deep dive, I guess the message is clear. Don't be a passive observer. Be an active participant. Engage with the issues. Think critically. And don't be afraid to speak up.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the wild world of DOGE high-energy cabinets and the future of American government.
Until next time, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions.
And remember, the future is what we make it.